Here on the Bear Report for a very special roundtable to get you ready for the 2020 NFL Draft. We're joined by Jacob Infante, the lead draft analyst from Windy City Gridiron. A really good follow on Twitter, really good at Windy City Gridiron. He's my go-to draft guy when I need help with anything, and I'm sure Aaron will echo the same thoughts as well. Jacob, thanks so much, man, for joining us for this roundtable today.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, I've been on with you guys a handful of times now, and it's always a great time. So, really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it's a tradition now. I think it's like 3 or 4 years straight that we do it right around the same weekend too. I think like 2 weeks before the draft. So, yeah, glad to have you back on.
And Jacob whipped me in our consolation bracket for the what was that, the Bears Twitter bracket thing. So that was a good time, man.
I can't get past Pat Finley. I've had to face him like the last 3 years, and it's just I can't get past him. It's like we always meet in the second or third round, and it's funny because I sit next to him, and it's just like we're kind of like laid back. Where it's like we care about it. We're like, okay, whoever wins. It's all good.
Those guys do. Most of those guys even pay attention to it because I noticed it. Like the White Sox one, people get serious about it, but it seems like a lot of the beat writers for the Bears just don't really care.
Yeah, I don't know if they like see it. I don't know. I'd have to ask a couple of them, but I got into like a Twitter rabbit hole with the White Sox one. I'm a Cubs fan, so I know nothing about it. And
it's a mess.
Like, it's like liquor and whoever can make the funniest video, pretty much. That's what I took away from it.
Yeah. It's like that's Section 108, right?
Yeah. I think that's what it was.
Yeah. They get so into it. Like I know a couple people who were involved in it this year. It's just like on a completely different level. It's just insane.
Yeah. Way crazier than anything we do. I just don't take it seriously, man. Like it's just one of those, like it's cool to be involved with it, but it's like there's some people who take it pretty seriously, and it's like, hey man, if you want to win it, go for it. Like it doesn't really do anything for anybody anyway. So it's just cool to be involved.
It's usually what I do. I send out a couple of retweets from like the Bear Report and for Windy City Gridiron because I know we have a couple like overlaps there, and that's pretty much all I do for it.
It's a nice little exercise, if nothing else. I mean, it's like I've retweeted stuff. I think I actually tweeted like one thing, one or two maybe in my run, but I don't know. Either way, just from an outsider's perspective, seeing like the other people's matchups, it's a nice little thing to kind of kill some time over the off season for sure.
Yeah, because it's always like the most dead time too, which is great. It's not gonna be dead time though. Like now we're like full go here into the draft, and here on this roundtable, we're gonna ask a couple questions. We're each gonna answer, kind of get you covered for the Bears draft. They hold the number 9 overall pick. I'm sorry, they trade number 1 overall. And let's get started. This is kind of a simple one. We'll go with you first, Jacob. In your eyes, what is the biggest need right now for the Chicago Bears going to the draft? The one position that they have to address, and not only address, but they have to hit on that pick as well.
So I'm between a couple positions here, but I'm going to say offensive tackle just because I think you're looking at left tackle. It seems like a fair assumption to say Braxton Jones is going to start there. And he had a good rookie year, especially for a 5th round guy coming from the FCS level, but you didn't add anyone at right tackle over the offseason and free agency. And unless they sign like an Isaiah Wynn or something these coming days, then you're probably not going to find a true starting option in free agency that's still available. So you're looking at right tackle. I think that's their biggest need on the roster right now. It's a good offensive tackle class, especially in round 1, which we'll see what they end up doing in round 1, but I feel like the value adds up. And if they don't make some sort of move at offensive tackle in the draft, I'm honestly going to be disappointed just because it's a premium position. You're trying to protect Justin Fields, and just if you're trotting out the same guys that you had last year at such a key position, then I don't really think that's that sound of a process.
Yeah, and they're doing their homework on a lot of tackles. Like I know you two have seen it. Like I think they've met with a ton of them, a couple 30 visits with prospects. So yeah, I'm kind of with you on the offensive tackle. Aaron, what is yours?
Yeah, I'm right there at offensive tackle. It is offensive tackle or bust for me. It's crazy to me how they haven't addressed offensive tackle when that was their biggest need. And it's also interesting because you see a guy like DeJuan Jones who's coming in for a visit. And I understand he's more athletic than a guy like Orlando Brown, but at the same time, it's like you're still talking about somebody who athletically really doesn't fit the mold of what the Bears are wanting to do. So it's interesting to see how different their free agent evaluations are and what they're expecting versus, what they're doing in the draft. And I don't know how you feel, Jacob, but I'm kind of at a point where, and the reason that I'm so like the Bears need to go offensive tackle in round 1 is because the Bears don't have number 32, right? So you're looking at the back half of the second round before they'd even be able to take a tackle. And again, you're going to know a lot more about this than I would. I've got my own opinions on it, but it looks like a situation where, Matthew Bergeron's not going to be there. Anton Harrison's not going to be there. You're looking at kind of rolling the dice and somebody who's going to be a developmental piece. And I know everybody says, oh, well, they got a starting 5th-round tackle last year. It's like, okay, but let's also remember that, Braxton Jones was a good story, but he was also not very good. And there's no guarantee that he's going to be that much better this season. Now, obviously, we hope so, but it's like, if you're really going to help Justin Fields, receivers are great, but especially for the style of quarterback that he is and just how he processes and how he takes his time, he needs a good offensive line. And I'm kind of curious, Jacob, from your perspective, let's just say the Bears do wait, they don't take one at 9, they don't trade down, they do whatever, they take let's just say a defensive lineman. What are the Bears' realistic options when you're talking about the second round? I mean, it just doesn't really feel like there's many starting caliber guys that are going to be sticking around when the Bears have those 2 picks in the second round.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're looking at offensive tackle. A lot of those guys are going to go, if not the first round, like within the top 20, then you're going to see like your Anton Harrison, your DeJuan Jones, your Matthew Bergerons. They're going to go, if not late round 1, then probably early round 2, because obviously there's a lot of need. It seems like every year offensive tackle, interior offensive line, it's generally wise to draft at least one of them fairly early because very few teams have all 5 positions absolutely sorted out. So there's always going to be a demand for offensive linemen in the draft. And once you get to that point, I mean, you're looking at Jalen Duncan, who's got great tools, the guy out of Maryland, but at the same time, he's incredibly raw. And I don't think he's someone who can start right away. And then there's a bit of a drop from there. Like Wanye Morris out of Oklahoma has got some really nice tools, but the tape says 4th round, but the position and the upside and just the need might kick him up to the 3rd round or maybe even late round 2. Same could be said for Blake Freeland out of BYU. Those are a couple of guys I think are probably going to rise just because of, 1, the position they play, and 2, the upside that they have. I don't think either one's going to start right away, or at least if they start right away, it's not going to be at a very high level. But that's more of like a long-term pick. So honestly, I'd say that if the Bears don't get an offensive tackle in round 1, or if they don't trade up for a guy in round 2 or somehow acquire like an early round 2 pick, then their best bet might be to wait because there's going to be better value at other positions. And realistically, it's a tough situation to be in because you've kind of shoehorned yourself into a position where, all right, if we don't go offensive tackle round 1, then we're kind of screwed. So things can change. I mean, obviously, we all have to see how the draft board plays out and see what the run on offensive tackles is. Maybe some of those guys I mentioned earlier are going to go lower than I expect. But it definitely becomes a lot murkier once you get past that round 1 tier for sure.
I do agree. I do think, if you don't take one at 9 and let's say, someone doesn't fall or they don't trade back or something, they're going to be screwed. For some reason, I still think getting a pass rusher or a defensive tackle for me is their biggest need. The problem is, Will Anderson's not going to be there at 9. Like Tyree Wilson, probably not going to be there at 9 unless he falls. Jalen Carter, like there's the talk, he could go to 9. I don't see him getting to 9. That's just me. I don't know who you take then at number 9 if you're the Bears at defensive tackle and defensive end. So I would probably lean towards offensive tackle at that spot. I just think the bigger need in my eyes is defense. I just look at how bad the defensive line was last year. Like not only finishing dead last in sacks, I believe in pressures, like second to last in rush defense, and pretty much dead last in that category. It was like very small margin. So yeah, I think it's defensive tackle, defensive end pass rusher. I just don't think they're going to be in a position to grab one. What I do think is interesting is if Jalen Carter's sitting there and one of the offensive tackles that they've scouted is sitting there, which way they go. Because I mean, I don't know how you feel about this, Jacob, but I don't know what, in your eyes, I guess, what is the better depth there? Like if the Bears, go offensive tackle, is there good depth at pass rusher or defensive tackle, or is it the other way around? Which one has kind of better depth in your eyes?
So I think the edge rusher depth in this class is very good. I think you're looking at probably a good, I'll say I'd have to count off the top of my head, but like 12, 13 guys that I think you can make a realistic argument saying, okay, I could see this guy going in the first 2 rounds, which I think that says a lot about this class. And realistically, some of those guys might fall. It's just the nature of the beast, unless there's edge rusher over and over again. But I think that's really good for the Bears because I agree. That was the other position, the defensive line, that I was kind of leaning towards, that or offensive tackle. Simply, they need to make some sort of upgrades because they signed some guys. It's better than it was last year, but that's saying very little. It's still a below average defensive line. And truthfully, I'd love it if they use 2 of their day 1 picks on defensive linemen, whether that's a tackle or an end. The defensive tackle depth, I think, is pretty good, but it's probably not going to be at 3 tech in round 2 and round 3. You're looking at a lot of guys who might be 1 tech or a true nose. I mean, Keanu Benton out of Wisconsin is a guy I really like, but he's not a 3 tech. Siaki Ika is a big, nose tackle, 1 tech type, just a massive space eater, not a 3 tech. Mozzie Smith out of Michigan, another very talented player, but I don't think he's a 3 tech. Really, the only guy I'd consider in round 2 is Tuli Tuipulotu out of USC, and he measured at like 260 pounds, which would be really light for a 3 technique defensive tackle. So I think you're looking at D tackle. I think would be good value in round 2, but it's not going to be the glamorous, sexy 3 tech pass rusher that a lot of people have been talking about. I think that you're better off if you're looking for that type of player, waiting until like round 4, round 5. Today, I wrote an article at Windy City Gridiron about like, these are some of the late round 3 technique type of guys like Carl Brooks out of Bowling Green, Moro Ojomo out of Texas, Jacqueline Roy out of LSU. Some guys that probably aren't going to go in the first 2 rounds, maybe like 4th round, 5th round. But I think that they're going to end up serving in that kind of role at the next level. So at D tackle, I think either you're getting a day 1 starter at 1 tech, or at least someone who can rotate with Andrew Billings, or you're getting someone who's probably going to, play off the bench and then, be in the lineup on some occasions, but not necessarily going to have a major impact right away.
So we've gone through the biggest need. This one's a little bit of the opposite here. We know the Bears are sticking with Justin Fields. We'd be absolutely shocked at number 9 if they went quarterback. What position would shock you outside of quarterback if they drafted at number 9 overall in the first round? And Aaron, I'll start with you for this one.
Man, I have to think about that for a second.
I think there's a few to choose from. I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah.
What is the one?
It's funny because we had these questions beforehand and I had my answer and now I'm second guessing it. I'm going to go ahead just because it seems like the obvious answer. I'm going to say running back. I know everybody's like, oh, well, if Bijan Robinson's a great player. Bijan Robinson is a great player, but the Bears aren't a running back away. And I don't think that that's the kind of move that they can make right now, especially throughout all their free agent signings, everything else that they've done. I just don't think that you can justify taking a running back, whether it's 9 or if they trade back with 15, 16, 17. I just don't think that that's a move that you can make, especially we just talked about it. They got pressing needs at defensive tackle. They got pressing needs at defensive end. They got pressing needs on the offensive line. I think you can make an argument for another corner, receiver. I mean, you look at this roster and yes, it has improved, but there's still a lot of improvement to be made. And I don't think that the running back position, regardless of who's there, I don't care if it's a reincarnation of Adrian Peterson, it doesn't make any sense for the Bears, especially in today's NFL. So that would be the one pick, especially for as much as Ryan Poles has talked about positional value, where I'm like, okay, there's just no way.
What about you, Jacob?
So running back is a very good answer, and I'm not going to count special teams here because
yeah, I should have said that.
Yeah, but, I think outside of running back, one position that's going to surprise me is probably safety. I just don't expect them to do too much in terms of early round investment there. I mean, Jaquan Brisker looked really good as a rookie, and Eddie Jackson, played at a very high level before he got hurt. I could see maybe like the 4th, 5th round, if there's good value somewhere, somebody falls, then maybe you can argue, all right, this is going to be a replacement plan for Eddie Jackson in 2 or 3 years or something like that. But as it stands right now, they have much bigger needs, arguably, more valuable positions than safety, but I think they're pretty set there. So I'd be surprised if they go in that direction. Plus, I really don't think the value at safety is this great in the class, especially early. I think Brian Branch is, he's a fringe first round kind of guy, but other than that, I don't have anyone in my top 50. Sidney Brown's pretty close out of Illinois, but that's really it.
I'm going to go with an obvious one. I do think there's a need at tight end behind Cole Kmet, but you want to piss off a fan base and make a fan base really mad. Like, go draft Michael Mayer or Dalton Kincaid. Nothing against them. Go draft him at number 9, and Twitter will be the best on that Thursday night. I like I said, I do think, adding another weapon behind Cole Kmet might, be valuable at some point in this draft. Just not at number 9. Like, there's absolutely no way. Now, if they fell back, let's say they went, back into the 20s, and someone like Mayer's sitting there, and maybe they have him high on their board, I don't think it'd be that much, of a reach or anything like that. I think at 9, though, I don't think there's any way it's happening. I just want to be different, though, because I do agree with you guys. I do think I'd have it like running back, tight end, safety, or safety, tight. It doesn't matter the order, really. I think any of those 3 would just kind of shock me a lot. Now, kind of switching over, let's do which player do you feel best about for the Bears at number 9? Let's roll with you again first, Jacob.
So just to clarify, is that best for who I think is most likely to be there as a realistic option, or who I'd like the most?
Yeah. Who's realistically going to be there? And I guess you could kind of mix it who you like the most as well, kind of have fun with it.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll go in a little bit of mix of both. So I'd normally say Paris Johnson here, but I think there is a possibility he could go at 7 or 8. I think, both of the teams have shown interest there. But I'm going to say Broderick Jones for that reason, just because I don't know if Paris Johnson's going to be there. I think Peter Skoronski's a guard at the next level. Whether the Bears want to draft a guard when you already have Nate Davis and Tevin Jenkins, I'm not so sure. So Broderick Jones, I think, is probably going to be the best overall value for me there. I think he fits the system very well. One of the most athletic tackles in this class, just, very coordinated, solid mover, great lateral quickness, acceleration to the second level, and a nasty demeanor too. I think that's something that, Matt Eberflus and just the whole organization is really going to like. So Broderick's a guy, he's not my top tackle. I have him at number 2 behind Paris Johnson, but I'm not 100% sure Paris Johnson's going to be there. So if he happens to go, I think Broderick Jones is probably a safer bet to be available at 9. And if he is, I definitely make him a player worth considering there.
Yeah, I was going to say Paris Johnson. I'm kind of with you on that. He's my top tackle in this draft. I think the Bears really like him. I think he's perfect. If he's there at number 9, I think they get up to the podium. Boom. It's a slam dunk for them. I think he's got the best chance of being, an anchor, a star tackle in this class. I'd feel the best about him. I just, like you said, man, I don't know if he's going to be there. And I guess you could kind of say the same thing with Jalen Carter. Like, if Jalen Carter's there, I think that's the pick you got to go with, despite what's kind of going on. For me, it would be Paris Johnson, though. Aaron, who would it be for you?
3 names.
Uh-oh.
3 names. All right.
Robinson, Michael Mayer, and Branch. No,
so you got Paris Johnson Jr. You're going to sense a trend very quickly. Broderick Jones or Darnell Wright.
Okay.
Now, I would like for them to be able to trade down. That'd be kind of nice, because I'm kind of with Jacob. I have a feeling that one of these offensive linemen goes. I'm not a big Peter Skoronski guy, for the simple reason, just like Jacob said, he's not a tackle in the system. I don't know how many different ways that you can make the argument in free agency that Orlando Brown Jr. doesn't fit the athletic mold, or Caleb McGarry has too short of arms. Then all of a sudden you look at a guy like Skoronski and you say, oh, well, he could play offensive tackle. It's like, well, no, he can't. That's not how this works. You can't be selective with So that would be where I would go. I'm also with you. I haven't been a huge Jalen Carter fan, right? I think that the tools are all there, but I think that, and this has been said multiple times, he has a way of taking over the game, but he also has a way of just kind of disappearing at times. And obviously with some of the off the field stuff, and really more than anything, I think it's more of like the questions of, the hot and cold motor, stuff like that. With that being said, I mean, dude, if you're sitting there at 9, he's on the board. I mean, it's really hard to argue against that, especially considering for the majority of the draft cycle before the stuff came out with the combine, he was considered the number 1 overall draft prospect by damn near everybody. So it's like, if you can get a guy like that at number 9, that's usually what good teams do. And you can't fight against it. But again, man, I have a hard time seeing the Bears do anything except for offensive tackle right now. So give me any of those 3 names. I wouldn't feel great about Darnell Wright at number 9 overall. Like Mel Kiper had mock today, but at the same time, it's like you got to do what you got to do at this point. I'm not in love with any of the defenders that will probably be there at this point, and it's kind of where it's at for me.
Yeah, I think those 3 are the safe picks too. I think they have a better chance of developing into legit tackles compared, to maybe a more riskier pick. All right, let's keep it rolling here. Give me a sleeper player to keep your eye on for the Bears at number 9. I know we talked a lot about Paris Johnson, Jalen Carter, who is maybe a sleeper that you can see the Bears maybe taking. And Aaron, let's go with you. Or do you want me to go?
Well, you can go or Jacob can go. One of you guys go.
Let's go with Jacob.
All right. So a sleeper at 9, I was going to say Lucas Van Ness, but I'm not 100% sure there. I guess I'll go Myles Murphy.
Okay.
I think that might be a sleeper. I don't think he's going to go that high, or at least to Chicago, but you're looking at someone who's, got good size, good length, very explosive athlete, one of the most explosive edge rushers in this class. He's been producing at a pretty high level over at the ACC against very tough competition over the last few years. He fits kind of that size, speed, strength mold that I think, this Bears defensive line has come to prefer, or at least in the organization that they've come to prefer. And especially say if Will Anderson goes, if Tyree Wilson goes, there's a strong argument Myles Murphy's the 3rd best edge rusher in the class. At least he is for me. So if you're looking at that, then given their need at defensive end, you could talk yourself into, all right, this guy's got a really high ceiling. He's a little bit raw from a technical perspective, but I think he's more athletic than Lucas Van Ness. Maybe doesn't have the same inside-outside versatility, but you can still kick him inside in certain sub packages if you need to. So I'd say Myles Murphy's a dark horse. I think they'd be more likely to trade down than they would be to take Murphy at 9, but I think at least for Chicago's perspective, it would make sense to do their homework on him at the very least.
Aaron, do you want to give yours?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm kicking around 2 right now. Do you want to give yours? And then that way, maybe you'll take one of them. I can just say my other one.
Yeah, I think we're going to go pretty similar if you're kicking around 2 names. I don't think he's going to be there. If he is, I would not be mad. I would go Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon. I still think defensive back is a little bit of a need for the Bears. I don't think they feel comfortable. I think they're comfortable with Kyler Gordon and Jalen Johnson. I don't know if they're 100% sold on Jalen Johnson in terms of an extension just yet, which means I wouldn't mind a younger defensive back. And I do think, with the trade today kind of sucks because, the Lions and Falcons trade pretty much opened up the door for Detroit to take either Witherspoon or Gonzalez, leaving probably Joey Porter as a 3rd best defensive back, according to some people. I don't know how you have him ranked, Jacob. But I think Gonzalez is the best defensive back in this class. I just think if he's there and the Bears, want to go BPA over need or whatever, not saying that defense back isn't a need, but I think that I could see them taking Christian Gonzalez. I don't think it would be a move that would, win over the fan base or make the fan base happy. I think there'd be a lot of talk about what the heck they're doing. But if they sit there at 9, he's there. I think there's a chance they could take him. That'd be kind of my sleeper pick.
Yeah. See, I had a feeling that you might go in that direction. So that's why I was like, let's go ahead and do that. Because I have another position. And I know that, Greg Gabriel would disagree because we've gone back and forth a few times on this player, Kalijah Cansey, right?
Okay.
I understand he's undersized. I don't know that he's a great fit, but what I will say is I think that he's not Aaron Donald, but he's a damn good player, man. And I don't really care how well he can defend the run. If he can get after the passer, that's all I really care about rookie year anyway. He's one of those guys for me where if Jalen Johnson's not there and you really want to try to get this 3-tech position figured out, put him on the field, see what he can do. It's definitely a little bit more of a higher risk pick, and obviously it would probably be more ideal on a trade down situation. But I think if you're looking at a situation where maybe one or two of the offensive tackles have gone, and maybe you don't have a great grade on the second, highest corner out there or whatever, then maybe that makes some sense. So yeah, Kalijah Cansey would be my one, and then like you said, Christian Gonzalez would be the other one for me.
Yeah, let's kind of get into our final one. Then I got a quick bonus one that's going to be off the top of the head for you guys. It's nothing hard, I promise. And we've talked with the Bears all this roundtable at number 9. I know it's been brought up about a trade back, what prospects would be there. There's obviously a chance they do trade back. There's a report that Pittsburgh and Chicago were talking. I believe EJ Snyder had that out from the Bootleg podcast. And if they do trade back, I don't think it's the end of the world. I'm in the boat where I think they need to land a blue chip player in the first round. I think they need to turn this defense around or get an anchor on the offensive line, something like that. I don't think it's the end of the world they trade back, especially if they could pick up maybe a second rounder, third rounder. I haven't really looked at the trade charts and what they'd get back. I know, Aaron, you two are probably more familiar with that. In your guys' eyes, what is that thought process for you, for the Bears trading back again and losing more value or picking at 9? Which one do you prefer that they do? Is it a big gap? Does it depend on the trade package? Aaron, let's start with you on this one.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm team trade back.
Okay.
I feel like unless you have a strong conviction on, let's just say Paris Johnson Jr. and I don't know, Jalen Carter. If you have a strong conviction on one of those two guys, then completely fine. You take them, you move on. It is what it is. But I think you're looking at a situation where, like the Steelers packet or the Steelers idea that was sort of around. You move back to 17, yeah, okay. But I don't know, and maybe Jacob disagrees, but I feel like one of those 3 tackles is going to be there for you. And if one of those 3 tackles aren't, maybe a guy like Kalijah Cansey is there, or maybe all of a sudden you feel more comfortable going with a Miles Murphy, or maybe you feel more comfortable with the Luke Van Ness, or maybe Joey Porter. I don't know. It's one of those things where the talent may not be as huge, at least, on the surface, but I think that 1, you're still getting a good player, and 2, you're very likely adding number 32 overall back. You may have to flip some picks and do some different things, but you're probably somehow getting a higher second-round pick out of that, getting back to 32, which means you lead off day 2. Then you're probably also going to get at least a third or fourth round back in that situation too. So to me, I think that the Bears have so many holes right now where, yes, you want blue chip players, but I think that you kind of forfeited some of that right, at least in my opinion, when you traded from 1 to 9. If you wanted the blue chip guy, you should have stayed at 4 or whatever that may be. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm team trade down. I don't want to see him going like the mid-20s by any means, but if they can trade down a little bit, still get a similar quality player, especially on the offensive line, and then turn around and have, number 32 overall and pick up a third round pick in the process, why not?
What side of the argument are you on there, Jacob?
I'll admit I don't really have a super strong leaning one way or another. I think it depends on who's going to be available. Aaron, like you mentioned, Paris Johnson Jr., if he's there, he's someone I'd strongly consider taking at 9. I'm still not off the Jackson Smith and Jigba train. I know that's one that's very controversial, but that's one where I think, okay, there's still really good value here. The long-term fit is fantastic. So I'd still consider that. But at the same time, say if you move to, a team like you mentioned, the Steelers, maybe the Commanders or something like that. I don't know. It just depends on whatever team wants to move up for a player. In like that 14 to 17 range, there's a shot you could end up with an extra second round pick. And I think with how many needs they have, I think that would be huge. Say if you want to go with the Darnell Wright, I'd prefer if the Bears drafted Wright, it would be a little bit later in the first round in a move back situation rather than staying at 9 and taking him, just because I feel like that's more realistic with where his value's at. But at that same time, you don't trade back just for the sake of trading back. If you have a Paris Johnson or if Jalen Carter falls and they're very, very confident that the, rumors, off the field issues aren't a problem, if they've interviewed him and he's, done very well, then I think you have to strongly consider him, if not run to the podium to take him. So with that said, it depends a lot on the value, but there's a part of me that's like, all right, they've got a lot of draft picks at their disposal, but let's get a little more. Let's get fun. Let's have some fun with it, and let's just really stack up, because I think there's still a lot of needs on this roster, and I think honestly, the more high-end draft capital you can get, the better. So, my answer is both. It's kind of like a sheepish, political answer, so to speak, but that's. I'm just kind of right down the middle. It just really depends on what the value on the board's like there.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on the both answer. Like, I get it both. I get both sides. Like, I think they have so many needs on this roster that trading back is a smart thing to do, depending on the value. But I also think, as I mentioned, like, I still think it would benefit them a lot to find that blue chip type player. But yeah, I think it's going to depend on who's there and what the offers are. And we, probably won't know until draft night. Like last year, what Poles made, was it 4 or 5 trades on draft day? Like right away, day 3, right before it started, he kicked off with a trade the pick again, I believe it was, made another trade in the 7th round. So I don't know, man. It honestly wouldn't shock me either way. Nothing would surprise me. Which kind of leads me into my next question and final question. Before we let you go here, Jacob, what's your guys' bold prediction for this draft? It could be anything, a position they take, long-term stuff, anything like that. You got a bold prediction kind of off the top of your head? Either one or two, whatever one wants to go first.
All right, you're pointing at me, so I guess that means I have no choice. All right, so bold prediction, I'm going to go with Brian Brzee falls out of round 1.
Oh, okay.
I think that's my bold prediction. I think that the tools are obviously there with him. He's explosive. He's powerful. He's got good size, but the tape is just a little underwhelming given his, massive number 1 player in the high school recruiting class, that pedigree. I still think he's a bit of a work in progress, where you're looking at, Jalen Carter and Kalijah Cansey. I think both of them go ahead of him at this point. And he's still a very talented player. This isn't a knock on him by any means, but with all those questions and the fact that, it's defensive tackle as opposed to edge rusher you're betting on there, I think he'll go a little bit later than some people expect. So my bold prediction is he goes out of round 1 completely.
Oh, I like that, because I'm not a big Brian Brzee fan, honestly. There's a reason I didn't mention him when we're talking about 3 tech options. I'm just not, like you said, all the tools are there and all the hype's there, but then when you watch him, you're like, all right, well, why? It's kind of one of the, like, you can see why, but at the same time, it's like you're talking about more of a projection than you are, some sort of proven talent. But, I don't know, man. Like, I feel like there's so many like low hanging fruit ones, and I don't think it's even bold at this point to say that Bryce Young is probably going number 1 overall, or even that Houston could miss on a quarterback. So I guess I'll stick with the Bears. Ryan Poles makes 5 total trades. And I'm going to say out of those 5 total trades, at least one of those is a trade up. I think that he's going to be extremely active because he has to be. And, even though the Bears don't control the entire draft anymore because they obviously traded away number 1 overall, they still have quite a bit of draft capital. And I think that when we're kind of, looking at all the mocks and the different things that we're doing and all the trades and stuff, it wouldn't honestly shock me if Ryan Poles says, hey, yeah, we want to get some more picks this year, but we also want to have some for next year too, even if they're mid-round picks, kind of start loading up to kind of get in that position where the Bears are never Ryan pacing anything again, right? It's just like they actually have draft picks every year and they're able to do different things and have different flexibility. So I think that the Bears are going to be relatively active. I think especially I'd say probably first and second round. The fourth round feels like one of those picks, especially coming into day 3, where they could easily trade back once, twice, maybe even 3 times. Pick up a little bit here and there. So yeah, I'll say at least 5 trades, and at least one of those will be a trade up, not just trade downs.
Yeah, I'm kind of the similar boat with you, Aaron. I'm going to go with a trade, bold prediction for a trade. It's not going to be really Bears related fully. I think they're going to trade back. I think there's going to be 3 to 4 trades into the top 10 in this draft. I don't know how bold that is, but I think someone's going to come up. What is it? Pick 3 is Arizona. I think someone's going to come up for a quarterback, Arizona. I honestly would not rule out Houston trade number 2. I don't think it's like the end of the world for them for whatever reason. I just have this weird hunch they might trade back. I could see someone like Detroit maybe trading back, acquiring draft capital in the first round, and then Chicago as well. So I think there's going to be like 3 to 4 trades in the top 10. And then watch, there'll be no trades at all.
So I got one, just a quick one real quick.
Yeah.
Do you guys think Aaron Rodgers is traded to the Jets by the time the draft, or I guess round 1 ends?
Man, I have no idea, honestly. I'm ready for it to be over. That's my answer. Like, I'm ready for it to be just totally over.
Yeah. How about you, Jacob?
I think no. I think that this is just going to be a running joke where it just keeps going on and on and on. And Rodgers is going to totally suit up for the Packers next year. And every single offseason, it's the same Groundhog Day situation where it's like, oh, Aaron Rodgers is gone. When's he going to get traded? So I'm going to say no. I just think there's not a lot of momentum. I mean, obviously they know the Jets are going to be the destination when he gets traded, but I mean, I don't know, but you guys, I've seen like nothing, like no rumblings within the last week or so, just about what's going to happen there, what that package is going to look like. So I just think there's so much up in the air at this point. I'm going to lean no.
Yeah, everything in the past 2 weeks has been like either Green Bay front office members or Jets front office members like talking at conferences or something like, yeah, we're working on a deal. Yeah, this is the plan. Yeah, and there's been like nothing. I think it was Bakatari who was on like Bussin' with the Boys, and he had like some interesting theory, like the Packers could pretty much just pay Aaron Rodgers and say you're not playing. Like you're going to be on the roster, you're just not playing. And it's just going to be Jordan Love. I don't know, man. I feel the same way though, Jake. Like it's going to be 2038. We're going to be doing this on April, 15th. And it's going to be like, well, what's your bold predictions? Like Aaron Rodgers finally retires and he's like 55 years old, 60 playing football. This is kind of how it feels like it's going right now.
Yeah.
Jacob, thanks, man, so much for joining us for this podcast and this roundtable. Where can everyone follow you on Twitter, and where can everyone read your work at?
Yeah, no, I mean, I appreciate you guys having me on for sure. You can find me on Twitter at Jacob Infante 24. You can find all my written work over at Windy City Gridiron. You can check out my Patreon page also, which is pinned on my Twitter profile. I've got my draft guide on there, and I'm going to be releasing the audio clips for all my prospect interviews that I've had and that I've written up, so you can see like firsthand me talking with those guys and being able to listen to it wherever instead of just reading it with your eyes. But yeah, no, that's where you guys can find me. And again, I appreciate you having me on. Absolutely.
Yeah. Really quick, what was your favorite interview you did? Which player this year?
I mean, that's tough. I still got a couple where I'm probably going to end up interviewing a couple more guys, but yeah. As of right now, I'm going to say, oh, man, that's tough. I don't want to choose just one. I think Cody Mock was a lot of fun talking with him. Kalijah Cansey was pretty cool too. And for like a later round guy, I'm going to say Robert Soderholm, long snapper from VMI, Virginia Military Institute. I really enjoyed talking with him. So but I could go on and on. I can't choose just one. There's been a lot of really good guys I've had the chance to talk with this year. So I'm, very grateful for that for sure.
Highly recommend checking out his Patreon page and checking out the draft guide. He puts a lot of work into it. There are a lot of good resources out there, but Jacob does a great job, and it's definitely well worth the money, well worth the time.
Yeah, very good follow on Twitter too. Probably the best tweet from the season last year. You know which one we're talking about. Actually, in all seriousness, very, very good follow on Twitter. You could tell Jacob does his research and clearly knows his stuff. That's why we bring him on here. So thanks again, Jacob. Really appreciate it. Hopefully we can get together, do something before the season starts.
No, absolutely. You already know I'm down. So just say when and where, and I'll do it.
Awesome. Thanks again, man.
Of course.